Okay, so here we are with another Mcfarlane DC Multiverse unboxing, and this is another collector edition. This figure number 30 in the collector edition. It's Captain Cold, the Rogues. So, yeah, here's a nice piece of artwork on the back. That's Scott Collins, I believe. That looks a little bit more like what I'm used to his artwork looking than the previous version. Now we can see Heatwave and Mirror Master kind of sneaking around in the background, which just makes me think that, even though McFarlane has done a really good job uh, giving us a lot of villains in the Flash's Rogues Gallery, as this week should prove, we've had, so far, we've had Heatwave, we've had Gorilla Grodd, we've had Captain Boomerang, and now we got Captain Cold. And then next episode, I'll be opening up the Reverse Flash, who's in a 2-pack with Flashpoint Batman, Thomas Wayne Batman. So I'm looking forward to that, obviously. But Captain Cold is my personal favorite of the Flash's Rogues Gallery. One of the best Rogues Galleries in comics. So continuing on with our look at Flash villains, Captain Cold. So yeah, I got him a while back. Like I said, all these I got a while back. Because we did that whole Black History Month thing, and then we opened up a whole bunch of Masters of the Universe figures. So I got him maybe like 3 months ago. It's been a while, and the Professor Zoom Batman 2-pack. I got that a while back. Grodd, all these I got like a while back. I've been sitting on them for the longest time, but it worked out pretty well because then I realized, oh hey, I've got like a whole bunch of Flash villains I can open up all at once, so we can do like a theme week, and that'll be fun. So I already opened the first figure from this assortment, which was Power Girl. I opened her a while back. She was the one figure that during February I opened that was not like Black History Month adjacent, but I was just too excited. I had to open up that Power Girl figure. And then you know, did a whole bunch of Masters Universe figures. Finally getting around to this guy in a Captain Cold, getting around to doing him in this Flash villain theme. And the last figures I'm going to have from this assortment are Guy Gardner, because I've got the standard and the platinum version of Guy Gardner. Captain Cold is actually the only platinum edition from that wave I was not able to get. I was too slow on that one, unfortunately. Bobby Wald asked how many ice villains are there in the DC universe. Captain Cold, Blizzard, Mr. Freeze, and don't forget Killer Frost. That's another one. There's a Cold Snap, who is one of the Masters of Disaster. Let me think. Who else? That might. I think that's at least all the big ones. So Captain Cold, Blizzard, Mr. Freeze, Cold Snap, Killer Frost. I think that's most of the big ones. There might be a few other minor ones, but those are most of the big ones. So yeah. I remember Cold Snap. His girlfriend was I don't remember what her name was, but she had fire powers, so they couldn't touch each other. So tragically. But yeah, let's go ahead and get on opening them up. We'll have one more look at that piece of artwork on the back. We'll get another look at that, I'm sure, because it'll be on the trading card. Go ahead and cut that piece of tape. And we've been over the Mcfarlane packaging before, so we don't really need to go over it again. No figure, no card stand for this one, unfortunately. Which, bums me out. And the trading card is on a separate bubble from the stand, but it looks like I'll be able to get him off okay. And here we got a typical Mcfarlane collector edition with no border, but it's got that foil stamping on the side. That's what the back looks like. Let's go ahead and read the trading card. Captain Cold, the Rogues, data file, real name Leonard Snart. How are you going to be anything but a comic book supervillain with a name like Leonard Snart? I'm just saying. Like the Leonard part ain't so bad. You know, you've got Leonard Nimoy, you've got Leonard Maltin, a lot of nice guys named Leonard, but Snart, that's that's a that's a last name that's just built for villainy. And putting it next to the Leonard, that doesn't help. Those Leonard Snart, that just sounds unpleasant when you string it together like that. So Central City has been home to plenty of supervillains over the years, enough to keep even the fastest man alive running ragged. But of all the Flash's notorious gallery of rogues, none is cooler than the parka-clad, cold ray packing Leonard Snart, aka Captain Cold. Well, I couldn't have said it better myself. All right. So yeah, I've been a fan of Captain Cold since I was a wee little lad, and saw him first on Challenge of the Super Friends. And who doesn't remember that really cool opening credit sequence? And Captain Cold is shown, I guess, just floating around in the void of outer space and freezes the entire planet with his cold ray. Yeah, like I think they kind of exaggerated the power of his ray gun in that. I don't think he could really freeze the whole planet like that, but I think it's more supposed to be sort of symbolic, you know. But anyway, there's the figure stand. We got the typical matte black figure stand with a silver DC logo embossed onto it, as we usually get from these collector edition figures. And then we got a whole bunch of accessories, most of which are extra hands and a couple extra faces. But the most important accessory that Captain Cold comes with, of course, is his freezing gun. And you can see that it's very accurate to the comics in terms of its design, in terms of its sculpt, and in terms of its coloring, because it was usually colored in that kind of magenta sort of color. And look at the back here; they got it more colored silver, which I suppose is more realistic. But during the Silver Age of comics, they wanted things to stand out and have some contrast, and that's why they usually colored it in that color to go against Captain Cold's ensemble, which, as you can see, is mostly blue and white. So yeah, the speaking of Super Friends, the variant figure, the Platinum Edition, actually was based on the Super Friends version of Captain Cold, which the main visual difference between that version of the character and the comic book version of the character that we see here is the skin color, and that is Captain Cold in the comic books, as you can see, had kind of typical Caucasian skin color. It's not too different from my own skin color. I'm a little more tan, but he's a little more pinkish. But yeah, so we got that head. It's got rather a grim expression on his face, a little more neutral, but still like a little more. He's a little frowny, and then a slight smirk. I think that's probably going to be my favorite of the three. That's probably going to be the one that I'm going to leave on the figure. And then the one that actually comes on the figure, he's got all those rubber bands on him. He's got a big old evil grin. So let's go ahead and let's cut the rubber tabs and get him out of here. He's got double rubber tabs around the torso, and then single rubber tab around each wrist, and a single rubber tab around each shin. And this is not the first Captain Cold figure that they've done. They did Captain Cold in that that wave that had the heat wave in it that I opened up previously, the Page Punchers, the comic book wave. And I wasn't really a fan of that figure because it wasn't the traditional Captain Cold look. He had like what looked like some kind of gas mask or something on him, and it was a mostly gray costume. So they redesigned him somewhat, and I didn't really appreciate that. That wasn't really anything I was feeling. But this figure actually reuses a lot of parts from that one, so they got their money's worth out of that mold at least. And I think it works, but you can see when we look at the figure that he's got like a bit more sort of surface detail and padding on his suit, like some protective padding over his abs and some pockets on his thighs, and it's got a good look to it. I think it looks like it's definitely insulated, protects him from cold. That's what you want out of Captain Cold. But he's also got a rubber band around his head, probably to make sure his face doesn't fall out in the packaging. Like if you saw my episode with the Huntress, you remember that her face fell out in the packaging. And he's got that little tail on the back of his hood, so that's some good attention to detail. Yeah. Uh, so let's go ahead and I'm going to take off this face. And we can see what it looks like underneath. And his hood is kind of a soft rubber, so it should be fairly easy to get this off. But you can see how soft that is. Oops, I dropped his face. And we're going to put that smirking face on there because I like that. So in a lot of these cases, I would probably just rather they just give him an alternate head than swap out the faces, because I kind of feel like that usually works a little better. But in the case of Captain Cold, I think that swapping out the face probably works a lot better just because of the hood. And either they'd have to make the whole hood again, or you'd have to remove the hood when he swapped out the heads. So it probably works out better in this case for him to have just a swappable face. But there he is with that little smirk. I like that. That's very Captain Cold. So I don't have to compare with me, but I'm pretty sure the new pieces on this figure are the belt, the head, obviously, or at least the face. Maybe the hood is the same. I don't know. And this cowl piece is a brand new piece. And here's Lone Dragon. Welcome, Lone Dragon. All right. So on the figure already, we have these solid fists. And that's just not going to do. So we're going to swap in some of these hands. And the extra hands look to be identical. You got one for the left and one for the right. And one is this kind of gesturing hand. And the other one, the most important one, the one that we're going to need the most for this figure, is this gripping hand. And it unfortunately does not have a trigger finger on it, which I usually prefer for figures that hold gun stab trigger fingers. But it doesn't really have a trigger on here, does it? So it's gonna look fine, I think. Let's go ahead and pull off this fist hand and put the gripping hand on there. And then we could put the freezing gun into his hand. And that's going to be kind of tricky because you see there's not a whole lot of space here. And this is a nice thick handle. So and it's got that kind of problem that Mcfarlane figures often have, where you see the accessory is kind of a very pliable sort of plastic. And in fact, it's much more pliable than the plastic that they used on his hands. So I'm going to have to really force this thing in here. And it just popped the hand. I'm just going to leave the hand off for now. And we're just going to see if maybe I can get it into the hand while it's not on the figure. So that way I don't have to worry about popping it off again. And I almost got it in his hand. It's just kind of caught on his pinky. You see how it's just barely caught on his pinky? Heat the hand. Well, I would do that, but my hairdryer is in the other room. And again, I don't really like to use the hairdryer on the video any more than I have to, because I feel like it's noisy. I don't like to do that. But yeah, that's good advice though. For those of you watching at home, if you're having a hard time with it, Lone Dragon has some good advice there. Is you can heat up the hand. You can dip it in some warm water, or my preferred method is to use a hairdryer. But there, we got it in his hand. It's fine. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. He's about to freeze the entire planet. Just it's not a metaphor. I can actually do that. So yeah, the faces obviously are unique to this figure. I don't know if the hood is the same as on the Page Punchers figure. The cowl is a new piece. The belt, I'm pretty sure, is a new piece. And that Page Punchers figure had a cape, like a raggedy blue cape, I think. So yeah, when that Page Punchers figure came out, I was kind of disappointed in it, but thankfully they did get around to giving us a proper classic comic book style Captain Cold. which I very much appreciate. Lone Dragon says, mug of warm water then. Well, then I got to get up and go into the kitchen and microwave it. You see, like that's going to be this whole big thing. So we're just gonna force it in there. It worked fine. Yeah, he looks really cool holding that gun. So we'll try one of the other fists on it, one of the other hands on him, I should say. We'll try this open sort of gesturing hand. And then he looks nice and sinister, doesn't he? All right. So yeah. Let me show you guys something real quick that I got in the mail today. Uh, and I've been looking for this one for a while. This is a vintage Kenner Batman Forever Riddler figure. This actually came out around the time that Batman and Robin hit theaters. Toys R Us had some exclusive 2-packs with the other 3 Batman movies around that time, and this was the Riddler figure from the Batman Forever 2-pack, and he's a hard figure to find, but I finally managed to get one on eBay for a pretty good price. More than I usually like to pay for a figure like this, but he's so hard to find that it was only like $20, which I thought was a pretty good deal. But all things considered, considering how hard this figure is to find in the first place, and usually when I find him, he's like sealed up on the card, and that's like ridiculously expensive. And it's like I want to be able to have the figure loose, so I don't want to buy like that expensive of a figure just to open it up. So I finally found one for a good price on eBay and picked him up. When I saw him on there, I'm like, I can't turn that down. I need to buy that right now before I miss out on that. So I was pretty excited to find him. Now I have all the Kenner Batman Forever Riddler figures. So I've got the talking one, the one from the 2-pack with Two-Face, and all 3 of the funky technological versions. The question mark bazooka and the target one you can see on the wall behind me. I have a packaged one of him, and the what was the standard Riddler from that line. And Lone Dragons, yeah, got him. I did get him. So something comes in the mail today. Yeah, that was what came in the mail today. So one thing that disappoints me about this Captain Cold figure greatly is he does have a holster on the side, but it's just a solid piece of plastic. It's not a functional holster. And I really wish that they'd have just hollowed the thing out and made it so you could stick the gun in there when he wasn't using the gun. I don't know why you would give him a holster and not just have it be a working holster in the year of our Lord 2025. There's no excuse to not do that. Like 3 3/4 inch figures have working holsters these days. Why can't my 7-inch collector edition? And we know what collector edition means. Collector edition means it's overpriced. So that disappoints me greatly. I do think that's something where it's like I gotta say fooey on you for that, Mcfarlane. You could have given us that working holster. But I like a lot of the details to this. Like I said, this reuses that Page Puncher's figure, which was kind of already supposed to be like an update on Captain Cold. But it works really well translating it back into the classic version with the padding and everything, and you can see there's like some armor on his shins and lots of McFarlane likes to do that kind of surface detail, that kind of fabricy texture that they put over the costumes, and I gotta say I like it myself. I think that it looks pretty cool and makes the figures look sharp. I appreciate that. So let's go ahead. Then we will talk about the articulation. So Captain Cold can look up about that far. He can look down about that far. He can tilt his head kind of quizzically from side to side, rotate the head all the way around. I do feel like that's pretty impressive neck articulation for a figure that's got a big clunky hood like that. Of course, the arms rotate all around at the shoulders, but they're going to kind of bump into that cowl a little bit. That's just how that's going to be. Of course, the cowl is supposed to represent like icicles. It's supposed to look kind of like icicles dripping off of his shoulders. and it looks very much the way that Carmine Infantino drew it in the Silver Age. So I appreciate that. He's got a bicep swivel, so the bicep, of course, rotates all the way around. He's got double jointed elbows. That is about the range of motion you get at the elbows. So pretty good articulation. In fact, I think I can get it to do a little better even. I mean, not necessarily fold up anymore because it's folded up about as much as it can. But I wasn't really taking advantage of the upper joint as best I could. Wrists, of course, rotate all the way around and move back and forth whichever way you want to. They're on that cool Mcfarlane ball jointed wrist that I love so much. Oh man, I'm gonna miss those when Mattel takes over and they don't have the cool Mcfarlane wrist articulation anymore. Mm, mm. And like I don't want to dump on Mattel because Mattel's been kicking ass with Masters of the Universe, and I've been really loving what they've been doing with that line. And if they can bring just like a little bit, just a little bit of the awesome we've been getting out of the Masterverse figures, do like a DC Universe version of Masterverse, I think that that DC is going to be in good shape. I honestly like I'm not worried about having good action figures. Mattel's going to give us good action figures. I'm sure of that. But it's not going to be the same. It's going to be different. So, but that's fine. That's how the world works. And who knows? Maybe 5 years from now, McFarlane will get the license back. Hell, maybe Hasbro will get the license. Maybe like it'll all change around. Mattel will get the rights to Marvel. They'll swap it all up. You know, and like maybe McFarlane will do some more DC again one day in the future. Who knows? Anyway, let's get back to the figure. So he's got the cool McFarlane torso articulation, so we can get all kinds of dramatic poses out of that. Of course, the torso rotates all the way around where it meets the abdominals, and then the abs rotate all the way around where they meet the waist, and then hip articulation. Captain Cold can kick up about that far, which isn't the furthest that we've seen from these figures, but at the same time, it's almost 90 degrees, not quite 90 degrees. But Captain Cold isn't really like a karate kick-in guy, so that's fine. Got double jointed knees. That's about the range of motion you get at the knees. He does not have a boot cut, even though they probably could have given him a boot cut, because this is a separate piece of plastic where the boot meets the shin. But he does have the cool McFarlane ankle articulation, so of course the ankles rotate all the way around, whichever way you want to. Again, gonna really miss that McFarlane style of articulation once Mattel takes over at DC. But that's just how that's gonna be. That's life. Bobby Wald says, I kind of thought about getting Captain Cold just so I can custom him into a G.I. Joe Quinn. Well, that might work pretty well. Quinn is supposed to be like a ridiculously tall guy, so he is going to be really tall next to your G.I. Joe classifieds. But I can go ahead and compare right now because I've got my my custom mainframe figure over here, so you can see the height difference. But I think that would still work if yeah, especially for like the Arctic version of Quinn. Personally, when I made my Quinn figure, what I did was I used Muldoon from Jurassic Park. I used the that for my base figure because I wanted the safari outfit. I wanted him with the khakis and the cargo shorts and the socks and all that kind of stuff. So Muldoon already had pretty much that whole outfit. And the head that I used was I had a 3D print of Danny Trejo. So I kind of used that one. So it's like a shorter haired, clean shaven Danny Trejo. And I think that works pretty well. Maybe I'll try to post something about that later so you can get a look at it. But I think he's on the other side of the room right now. But yeah, that was what I wound up doing for mine. So, but yeah, I think that would probably actually work out pretty well with as far as like if you want him to be like really tall, and like I said, Quinn in the comics is supposed to be kind of ridiculously tall. So I don't think that would be like superhumanly tall though, but it'd be a guy close to 7 feet tall, which I believe Quinn is. I believe his height in the comics is supposed to be like 6'9". Like he's really tall. So But he might be a little on the slender side for Quinn, but the head would definitely work. What might work best, I would think, if you if is and you can get these for pretty cheap online, is the homeless looking Robert Pattinson, you know, drifter Bruce Wayne, whatever they call that one. That one has kind of a bulkier jacket. So I think if you got Captain Cold and swapped around some parts with that one, like specifically like the torso part of that one, that might work really well. If you just want my unsolicited advice, there it is. But yeah, I think that this hood would work really well for Quinn, obviously. But the face is swappable, so you could also cut out whatever kind of face you wanted to put in there. Like I'd seen a lot of people use various Incredible Hulk heads for Quinn, and that usually works pretty well. Because I mean, like Herb Trimpe uh, drew some of those stories. Actually, I don't think Herb Trimpe did that much with Quinn, did he? Because he did not do the first appearance, because he didn't draw GI Joe #2, and I don't think that Quinn showed up again until Mike Vosberg was drawing it. So yeah, we missed out. I think we missed out on seeing Herb Trimpe draw Quinn. unless Quinn showed up in the order of battle, because I think Herb Trimpe drew all of those. So his entry in the order of battle might have been Herb Trimpe. But yeah, Herb Trimpe, my personal favorite Hulk artist, I think he would have drawn a great Quinn. So anyway, but yeah, I think that's pretty much it for Captain Cold. I'm really happy with how this figure turned out, and in fact, out of all the Flash villains that I've opened so far, this one is easily my favorite, which is appropriate because he's my favorite of the Flash villains in terms of characters. It makes sense he would be my favorite in terms of the action figures as well. And since he is my favorite of the villains, maybe I'm a little biased. Maybe if your favorite is Gorilla Grodd, you might be thinking, "No, that Injustice 2 Grodd was fire. That was Chef's kiss." Or maybe you're a big fan of that Captain Boomerang figure, and those are both really good figures. Maybe you're a big fan of that Heatwave figure, and you're a lot more generous than I am in terms of in regards to that. Was not impressed with Heatwave. Poor old Heatwave. But he'll be something to add some color to my Flash Rogues when they're standing on the shelf together. So that'll be nice. So we've still got one more left, though. The guy who might just be the worst of the Flash's villains. Certainly the most petty of the Flash's villains. This guy is so petty. He ought to be named Tom Petty. That's right. It's Eobard Thawne, Professor Zoom, the Reverse Flash. I'm going to have him to open up for you on the next episode. And if that's not enough for you, he's in a 2-pack with the Thomas Wayne version of Batman. And there's a lot of things that I really like about that 2-pack. Even when we just looking at the figures in the package, there's a lot of cool stuff about those. So is there a chance that I might even prefer that that Professor Zoom figure over my beloved Captain Cold? I guess we'll find out. So if you want to make sure you don't miss that, make sure that you like, subscribe, all the fun YouTube stuff down below. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about Captain Cold, both the character in general and this figure specifically. I want to hear what you have to say in the comments. Captain Cold is, one of the mainstay Flash villains. He's my personal favorite, like I said. We've seen him pretty much anytime the Flash has been in live action or animated form. Pretty much every single time, Captain Cold's been right there along with him. He was in the 1990 Flash series. He was in the CW Flash series. He was awesome in that. Of course, he was on Justice League Unlimited. He was on Super Friends, like I already mentioned. I think he had a cameo in the Brave and the Bold episode. He wasn't on there very long, but he was on there. Yeah, great character. Absolutely great villain. Definitely one of my favorites. I remember one episode where they showed the origin of the Legion of Doom on Super Friends, and they're trying to figure out where they're going to put their headquarters, and Captain Cold says, "We'll hide out in the ice in the polar caps." And I'm pretty sure he was the only one who thought that was a good idea. And then Grodd's like, "Your brain must be frozen, Captain Cold. The jungle is the only logical place." And then Lex Luthor says, "We'll compromise. We'll put our headquarters in the swamp." And Solomon Grundy, I just imagine him over in the corner being like, anyway, that's it for this episode. Don't miss the next one with Professor Zoom, the Reverse Flash, whatever you want to call him. He's got a lot of names, don't he? We'll talk to you next time. Bye.